You are looking at film clips from worldwide newsreels. The title reads, Communist Riots in Tokyo, Japan. A long way off, you think. This communist mob is in Venezuela, right in our own backyard, attacking an American citizen and his wife. A kangaroo court in Havana, condemning hundreds to the firing squad because they incurred the displeasure of Castro and his crowd. This is happening 90 miles from our mainland. Less than 10 minutes by jet bomber. Less than 5 minutes by rocket missile. And where do you think this is? It's communist-inspired student rioting in San Francisco, USA. Look at those faces. The face of communism in America. Is it not high time we ask ourselves? Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Herbert A. Philbrick.
What is communism? I've been on the inside of communism. I still have contacts. From this knowledge, I tell you as simply and seriously as I know how. Communism is a lying, dirty, shrewd, godless, murderous, determined, as J. Edgar Hoover says, a criminal conspiracy. I'm choosing these words deliberately. As I travel around, I still have people say, well, why are you so hard on communists? They're just another political party like any other, and a poor minority at that, and so misunderstood. Well, we don't want them misunderstood, and that's why we're making this film. And that's why I say they are lying, dirty, shrewd, godless, murderous, determined, and it is not an American political party like any other. It's an outlawed organization, taking its orders and instructions from another government to do everything possible to destroy our government. It's an international criminal conspiracy. In years to come, if democracy falls, historians are going to look back on this time in which we are now living, and are going to say, how could any free and intelligent people living in a country like America let a gang of vicious outsiders come in and take over? Well, of course, the only answer would be that most Americans didn't realize or couldn't believe until it was too late that communists are what they are. That's why I want to analyze those 3, 6, 9 words. And if you'll follow me, I'll guarantee that 10 minutes from now, a lot of you are going to have a new understanding of communism. Now, let's see if that isn't so. We start with lying. People wonder, how can a communist look you in the eye and tell one bare-faced lie after another with a straight face? The way Gromyko did with President Kennedy on Cuba. Well, the explanation is simple. Lying doesn't mean the same thing to a real communist that it means to you and me. For 9 years, I walked streets like this to meet with other party members down dark hallways, behind closed doors, constantly changing meeting places to avoid suspicion. In musty attics or moldy basement rooms like this. We were taught by our communist leaders and ordered to believe that truth is anything that will promote communism. Therefore, nothing is a lie if it helps the party. So the communists use the lie as a weapon, a shield, and a tool. When you keep that in mind, at last you begin to understand them. When a smiling Khrushchev says the Russians in Cuba are technicians and farm helpers, well, you can suspect there are soldiers, too. And when he says only defensive weapons were sent, well, you can suspect there are also intercontinental missiles and bombers. And when he says now they removed them all, well, what do you think? Since it is their sworn duty to tell us whatever will best serve their cause, we should always suspect they are lying. Lying is one of their best tools for playing dirty. dirty, mean, despicable, ruthless. Slander, blackmail, corruption of character, to stock and trade. They recognize no such things as human dignity or any rights of the individual. Class hatred and open class warfare are their specialty. If they can get a few people killed, well, so much the better. As some were killed in this communist-incited race riot. At this, they are not only dirty, but they are oh so shrewd. Give them credit. They know Americans better than most Americans know communists. They are shrewd with words. How many Americans would volunteer for the Communist Army? Yet, many enlisted when it was called the Abraham Lincoln Brigade, and went off to fight and die with the Communists in the Spanish Civil War. When, in 1943, for tactical reasons, the Communist Party eliminated the Young Communist League, it instantly became the American Youth for Democracy. They don't say, give us the right to operate subversively in our midst. They say, defend the Bill of Rights. They don't call their campaign against our Internal Security Act by that name. They used the Citizens Committee for Constitutional Liberties and the American Committee for the Protection of Foreign Bonds. There's the American League for Peace and Democracy, and so on. Well, that last mouthful combines a number of words our people like. Peace, democracy, even the American League. But this is only a drop in the bucket. The communists are past masters at getting other people to do their dirty work for them. They take over organization after organization in America in just 2 steps: infiltration and agitation. This is what they work at day and night. This is what accounts for much of their success. You want a shocker? Well, in that list up there, in place of those thinly veiled commie fronts, let's substitute some other names, respectable names, that have been infiltrated to a greater or lesser degree. I hope you are more than shocked. I hope you are aroused. Because we have it on no less authority than J. Edgar Hoover that communists and fellow travelers have penetrated every category up there, and more. Well, you think a few maybe, but it doesn't take many. It has been tragically proven time and again that one dedicated communist in a key spot, such as Alger Hiss in the State Department, or Harry Dexter White in the Treasury Department, or in any position to influence command decisions, can wreck our hopes, slaughter our soldiers, and weaken our nation. But we must hurry on. I've said these fellows are lying, dirty, shrewd, and I say they are godless. To me, this is perhaps the most frightening word of all, because it accounts for every other bad word that describes them. When the Reds tear down their churches or turn them into common warehouses, when they torture and kill their priests, ministers, and rabbis, we are horrified, yes. But why are we surprised? What do you expect of a people who say the church is our enemy and must be destroyed? No one can be a true communist and hold any religious convictions. I say to you, it is bad to be irreligious, but it is far worse to be anti-religious. It is reprehensible to be immoral, but it is horrifying to be unmoral. To them, any wrong they do is right. Well, these are some of the more frightening facts we must understand if we are going to understand communism, and we'd better understand it. My grandmother used to say, what you don't know won't hurt you. But today, what you don't know can kill you, and I mean that literally. The communists are murderers. Of course, they don't call it that. Whether they're casually shooting individuals who get in their way, or as in the Katyn Forest Massacre in 1940, maliciously executing 15,000 Polish officers and intellectuals. In the words of an official United States Congressional Committee, the committee unanimously agrees that its investigation proves conclusively and irrevocably the Soviets' NKVD, the People's Commissariat of Internal Affairs, committed this massacre. a calculated plot to eliminate all Polish leaders who subsequently would have opposed the Soviets' plan for communizing Poland. This was plotted shortly after the Soviets' treacherous invasion of Poland in the fall of 1939. We'll not prolong these gruesome scenes taken from this official hearing and report of the United States Congressional Committee, but while you're recoiling from this sight, save a little shudder for yourself. Why? Because this is part of what is planned for you. Yes, the communists have plans for you. As soon as they're in power, they will arrest many of you, seize your property. If you're important enough, they will shoot you, along with all community leaders. The rest of you will be regimented, and some of you forced into slave labor. This is the planned, plotted, tested program they are determined to execute in this country, as they already have in many others. Don't think for a minute their program is on a take-it-or-leave-it basis. When you see where the Reds have grabbed a new slice of territory here or a whole nation there, well, don't tranquilize yourself with the thought that this will satisfy them. Every move they make, every piece of ground they gobble up, every labor union, every government agency, every local organization they infiltrate in this country is just one more step towards their main goal, which is America and you. Occasionally they get their setbacks, but don't let a few defeats raise your hopes any. Even the setbacks are part of their overall strategy. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Cuba is a classic illustration. Remember this news photo? Castro and Khrushchev hugging each other? We thought it a little ridiculous at the time, rather disgusting, and let it go at that. The next thing we know, the Russians put missiles and bombers on the island. Then we suddenly come to life and say, wait a minute, back up there. So they take 1 step back. They make a show of removal. But see what they still gain in the maneuver? We think we won a victory. So we relax. And they end up with who knows how many missiles and bases and military personnel established 90 miles off our coast. Well, that's the story of our experience with the communists. When we get mad enough to call a halt to something, they back up and say, okay, don't get excited, let's coexist. So we relax again. We give them a chance to consolidate their gains, and then they come in with a new sneak punch. What it all boils down to is just what J. Edgar Hoover said. It's the greatest danger we face in the world today. Well, I promised you 10 minutes ago that by this time you would have a new understanding of communism. Too long we have been thinking of communists as misguided but human beings with humane feelings and responses. What we have just shown you exposes them for what they really are: lying, dirty, shrewd, godless, determined, and international criminal conspiracy. This is the true nature of the enemy. This is communism.